Chapter 8. Let's check it out. Code plays an important role in baseball and softball. During a game, players and coaches can be seen exchanging sequences of hand gestures that involve touches to their arms, head, and apparel. The most important messages are those exchanged between the catcher and the pitcher about the type of pitch that will be thrown. In light of the potential usefulness of this message to the opposing team, it is not surprising that there is a long history of so-called sign stealing. When successful, this allows the player at second base, who is able to monitor the exchanges between the catcher and pitcher, to warn the batter about the pitch that they are likely to receive. This is not without controversy, though, and in 2018, there were particularly heated accusations around Boston Red Sox's use of electronic equipment to steal signs. To counter the possibility, which opponents have cracked their code, teams will sometimes also change their code throughout the season, although this runs the risk that players may struggle to remember and thus effectively use the evolving code. Exercises. Number 1. According to Dunbar, human societies that reached around 150 people in a group were unable to achieve cohesion through similar activities to those of monkeys. The reason that our ancestors lived in large groups, despite the potential for difficulties inherent in such groups, is that they faced a growing danger of predators waiting around them as they left the African forests for the grasslands of the savanna. Dunbar suggests that in this situation, language took the place of mutual care and cleaning. In many studies, Dunbar and his colleagues show that people use language not just to provide useful information, but also, and even primarily, for social exchanges. The findings of Dunbar and his colleagues indicate that much of people's speech is devoted to gossip. The researchers argue that gossip is a substitute for or equivalent to delousing in monkeys. Using the language of words, we can reach more people, talk simultaneously with more than one person, and convey information about cheaters and swindlers, or tell stories about upstanding, trustworthy people. And all this in an efficient, concise manner that the language of words can do so well. Number 2. The rough edge between people is where the spark is. There is always turbulence in a relationship, and that turbulence gives both friends a chance to grow emotionally. That is one of the most important things about friendships. You get to learn about how someone else sees the world and realize that they see it differently than you do. If the relationship has trust and affection, the hostility that inevitably comes up between two people is contained. So the aggression is overcome and the friends work together to grow and learn something new. Having friends that are a lot like you decreases the amount that you can learn from the other person. So it is okay to have friends that mirror you, being like you. But if you want to grow and learn, it is good to have friends that are different. So transformation and growth involve turbulence, difference, and a lot of learning, all the while keeping a connection healthy. These are the things that make a friendship special and important. Number 3. Our sphere of ethical concern is typically limited to those sentient animals whose welfare we affect by our interactions with them, so that unconstrained wild animals might be excluded. Of course, like domesticated animals, wild animals can obviously also experience suffering and positive states, and are similarly individual, emotional beings. However, if in their natural state they contrive somehow to never encounter human beings or our influence upon their environments, these internal states remain entirely the concern of those animals and other non-human animals that they encounter. Domesticated animals have entered into a union with the human species. However, as we humans become a dominant superpower species, we not only began to have increasingly negative impacts on wild species, whose environments we have appropriated, but we also engaged in more uneven and exploitative relationships with domesticated animals, which no longer have the option of defection or independence. Number 4. To understand traditional or ethnic music as a collective symbol of pride does not mean that we share a crystallized perspective of music. Music deals with meanings, and these are inevitably negotiated depending on contexts. That is, the meaning of certain genres or musical tracks varies in time and space, depending on the way it is appropriated by people. This means that the understandings on certain musical productions vary not only depending on the context, but also on the characteristics of the artist or the audience. This situation is even more complex when it comes to contexts where the market and the cultural industries play a key role in the music's production, broadcasting, and consumption circuits. The music industry and the media are crucial actors for the dissemination of musical tracks, but also for the creation of meaning around them. Thus, the creation of certain musical categories and their expression in the public sphere are dependent on a number of social actors.